Good evening, everybody, and welcome back. It's great to have you here once again. As always, I am thankful and I am grateful that you have taken your time as always. Tonight, it should be an interesting night. What do you think? Do you think it'll be an interesting night? I personally think it's going to be, shall I say, an informative night. Is that the word I'm looking for? I'm trying to think of the right word to put into context here. It's going to be maybe an eye opener for some, maybe not for everyone. But we're going to be talking about Luke chapter 4, verse 4, since it's the foundation of years ago when I went down this road of looking at every single Bible and every version and every thing I can get my hands on to see if they all had changed the way I think they had changed. But one of the things I want to deal with is the common thing you'll hear from Roman Catholic folks, and I think they're more confused than they think they are. I don't think they realize what they say sometimes when they make the accusation against the dreaded King James onlyist. People put that word out as a negative thing. Even the secular world finds King James onlyists to be crazy people, but they don't consider the Vatican crazy at all, or the Roman Catholic Church, which was founded on multiple lies. But here's the problem. They say you do not have the original, and you copied your stuff off of the Douay-Rheims. All right. Well, we're going to talk about Luke 4:4 because, again, I think Catholics, Roman Catholics, are a little bit confused when they make that accusation. When we look at the Douay-Rheims, as you can see, Luke 4:4, and it reads, "And Jesus answered him, It is written that man liveth not by bread alone, but by every word of God." Nothing wrong in there, right? We don't have any issues, I would think, at this point in time. Excuse me. Now we move on to the Challoner-Rheims, or the Challoner-Rheims. I'm not sure how you pronounce Richard Challoner or Challoner, his actual last name, so I'm not insulting him by not pronouncing it properly. But I have the 1959, as you can see, but he had wrote the actual revision about 1750, right in that area. And it reads, Luke 4:4, "And Jesus answered and said to him, It is written, Not by bread alone shall man live, but by every word of God." I mean, we're pretty much the same there. It reads pretty much the same. Now, in 1941, I should have put that before the 1959, but the 1941 Challoner-Rheims, which was edited by Catholic scholars, it reads, "But he answered and said, It is written, Not by bread alone does man live, but by every word that comes forth from the mouth of God." Okay, so here we see 1941, they add the word forth. And, so every word that comes forth from the mouth of God. I'm not arguing that point at this point. That's not what my intentions are to argue that word. We can talk about the semantics of maybe certain words and so forth, but that's not what I'm focusing on this video. We could be here for a lot longer if we started getting into things like that. But that was 1941. And then they had changed it back in 1959. You notice that how they took the fourth out. So they added it. So all of a sudden we got a problem here, right? I mean, it's been edited, it's been revised, it's been changed. Now let's look at the RSV Catholic edition in 1952. In Luke 4:4 it reads what? "And Jesus answered him, It is written, Man shall not live by bread alone." Huh. You think we might be missing something? A lot of people want to say the Vatican II is when they took out a lot of things in the ecumenical movement. And I agree that was a terrible time for the Catholic Church because it created yet another schism, yet another change from their system. They went rogue. So you have the Sedevacantist, who I'm not going to talk about right now, but they hold on to that because their Bibles before that are more accurate. Well, as you can see, the RSV was written in 52, and that was before the Second Vatican Council. Now I got the NAB there, New American Bible, 1986, the Catholic edition. "Jesus answered him, It is written, One does not live by bread alone." Again, we're missing by every word of God, are we not? These are Catholic editions. Now remember that. Your modern Catholic versions don't match your supposed creme de la creme of Luke 4:4. So that's a bit of a problem. And then you have the revised version, 1881. I have the 1881 and I also have the 1904, Westcott and Hort. I have both of those. And it reads Luke 4:4, and Jesus answered unto him, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone. Kind of funny because the RSV Catholic edition 1952 almost reads the same, and Jesus answered him, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone. When I made the comment before, I said you're reading a lot of Westcott and Hort. I did not lie. This is just one of the many verses we can look at that deal with that situation. So, those are the Catholic versions. We see now in Douay-Rheims, Challoner-Rheims. Now, Douay-Rheims and Challoner-Rheims did change very slightly, did it not? Not by much. But the Challoner-Rheims, edited by the Catholic scholars, added the word fourth, but then took out the word fourth. So, it's been revised, correct? It's been changed. It's been altered. You don't have the original. Because Catholics like to do that. The Roman Catholics like to accuse people. And I do feel a little bad for them because they're just going by what their priest says. They don't really look into it. They just go by what they're told and not do the legwork. Now, let's move on to the legacy of the King James Bible. We're going to start off with Wycliffe, 1392, and you're going to see and I've said this before, please pay attention to spellings and so forth and so on, because spelling does change. We talk about Gothic print and Roman print, and, all these things can matter, italics and all of that. So in the Wycliffe Bible in 1392, Luke 4:4, and it reads, well, I'm going to read it, and Jesus answered to him, it is written that a man liveth not in bread, I couldn't even say it, not in bread alone, but in every word of God. But if I'm going to read this out, it'd be what? It, Jesus answered to him, it is written that a man lieth not in bread alone, but in every word of God. Why do I read it like that and sound a little odd? Because that's the way we would read it if we looked at it today. But if they looked at it then, they knew how to pronounce certain letters. Now you see every word of God. That U is actually a V, but if you change the font, it becomes a different letter. It's just a little understanding of history and literature and just the way things are written. You just do the legwork on that. All right, but what we see here is in 1392 it says, and Jesus answered to him, it is written that a man liveth not in bread alone, but in every word of God. Then Tyndale Bible 1524, and Jesus answered him, saying, it is written, but is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word of God. Still there, right? And again, 1392, 1524, that predates the 1611 King James Bible, and it predates even the 1609 Douay-Rheims, even though, go back 1582 and 1572. Okay, well, those 2 years predate that, so I just want to point that out. In the Matthew's Bible, 1537. Now, I could have put in a bunch of them, bishops and all of them. I'm just trying to keep this streamlined as possible. Matthew's Bible, 1537, and Jesus answered him, saying, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word of God. So every word of God still remains there. It has not been removed. And Geneva Bible, 1560, it reads, but Jesus answered him, saying, it is written that man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word of God. So in the 1560 Geneva Bible, Geneva edition, it reads the same thing. So we see no changes here up to 1560. So because the reason I stopped there is because of the fact we get into the argument of the 1611 and how that's completely changed. Well, does it? Does it change? Are we going to see a large change here? I don't think we're going to see a large change. But let's go ahead and read on. In the 1611 it says, and Jesus answered him, saying, it is written that man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word of God. Now you'll see live and every hasn't quite changed the spelling yet. It hasn't caught up to the standardization of the letter system when we get into. Now they got 1769. What do we hear? Well, in 1769, that's that's what you're really reading. Okay, fine. And Jesus answered him, saying, "It is written that man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word of God." Now we see "live" it's just been spelt the proper way, and "every." If that's your editing, if that's your revisions that you get excited about, fine. But every word of God is still there in 1769. Correct? Now look at our modern Bible today, and I would consider 1769 the modern Bible. I have my 2019 King James Bible sitting in front of me. Now I did not put it up on screen because I wanted to read right from the pages. So in Luke 4:4 in the King James Bible, today's King James Bible, and it reads, "And Jesus answered him, saying, It is written that man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word of God." So, now we see from 1392 to 2019, I believe this particular King James Bible I'm reading on is 2019. My local publisher's one there is on my shelf behind me, and I should have pulled that out just for those. What about 2025? Somebody might say that. But as you can see, 1392 to today's King James Bible, it has not changed except for the spelling. The spelling has changed. But as you can see from the Catholic Bible, it has changed. And it has used some of Westcott and Hort. In fact, your NIV actually matches your modern Catholic Bibles. Your NIV does, your NK, all of your modern Bibles match the modern Catholic Bibles. That has to tell you something. But when they say the ecumenical movement, and they say it all started in the Second Vatican Council, it's kind of not true because they kind of already started changing it. You look at 1941, like I said. Then you look at the 1952 Catholic editions. It's already changing. So the change was already happening. The only thing the Vatican II Council was to say, hey, listen, we're all in agreement. We're all going to be the same. And that's what you have. Bibles that are all basically the same. ESVs, all of them. ESV comes the RSV from the ASV, from the ERV, the EV, the English, where is it now? The Revised Version, rather, the Westcott Hort from 1881. So next time someone says to you, as a Roman Catholic, we've never changed. You have all these Bibles. No, all these modern Protestant Bibles are just modern Catholic Bibles. That's what you're reading. Stemming from Westcott and Hort, who worked in collusion with people in Catholic backgrounds, whether it be Tischendorf and so forth. You can do the history and legwork on that for another time. I'm not going to go through that whole thing, but I'm just pointing out the fact that you cannot say as a Roman Catholic that you read the original. You don't. Even your new Catholic study Bibles, I know I have a relative who's working on, I think, the NAB or the RSV Catholic Study Edition Bible, which reads exactly the same as a NIV Bible, and which is a Protestant Bible supposedly, but let's be honest, it's Catholic. You're not reading the original. Don't get me started on the Latin either, because now you have to discuss what kind of Latin are we talking about: vulgar Latin, classical Latin, ecclesiastical Latin, and did you try to hybrid some of those together? Oh yeah. So that's it. There's no argument to be had on versions. There's no argument here. There's none to be had. King James did not change its, all you see it fine-tuning spelling and lettering. It didn't take out sections. I'm not talking about the sections of the Apocrypha. I'm talking about the sections. Man shall not live by bread alone. And then you took out, but every word that comes from the mouth of God. And someone will argue, well, it's over in Matthew. Well, good. I'm glad it's there. How come it's not here? Well, I appreciate your time, and I just want, and it's not about hate either, about hating the Roman Catholics. We should love them and bring them to the light and help them see that They've been lied to. They've been lied to. Again, thank you for listening tonight. I appreciate your time as always. And with that, I will say, God bless and have a beautiful day.